Hello and welcome to another episode of Refresh Perspective here on Heavenward Thinking. Today we're continuing on in Luke chapter 20. We're going to look at verses 9 through 19. So I'll read it and we'll get right into this week's conversation. He went on to tell the people this parable. A man planted a vineyard, rented it to some farmers, and went away for a long time. At harvest time he sent a servant to the tenants so they would give him some of the fruit of the vineyard. But the tenants beat him and sent him away empty-handed. He sent another servant, but that one also they beat and treated shamefully and sent away empty-handed. He sent still a third, and they wounded him and threw him out. Then the owner of the vineyard said, "What shall I do? I will send my son, whom I love. Perhaps they will respect him." But when the tenants saw him, they talked the matter over. "This is the heir," they said. "Let's kill him, and the inheritance will be ours." So they threw him out of the vineyard and killed him. What then will the owner of the vineyard do to them? He will come and kill those tenants and give the vineyard to others. When the people heard this, they said, "God forbid." Jesus looked directly at them and asked, "Then what is the meaning of that which is written? The stone the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. Everyone who falls on that stone will be broken to pieces. Anyone on whom it falls will be crushed." The teachers of the law and the chief priests looked for a way to arrest him immediately, because they knew he had spoken this parable against them. But they were afraid of the people. As we look at this section, it builds off of what we looked at last week. What can we see with a fresh perspective?
Well, I think you focus in on the verses that lots of people don't focus in on, right? So we focus on the cornerstone.
Mm-hmm.
Great songs about the cornerstone, about
Yep.
Jesus being the cornerstone. It's fantastic. But it's the verses after that have the meaning. Jesus is the cornerstone. Therefore, anyone who falls on him will be broken to pieces, right? So if you start just with that and you say, they're going to be broken to pieces, that's the good part. That's us,
Yep.
right? If you're not broken to pieces, then you have a problem, right? There's a modern new age idea out there that says you're not saved from something, you're saved for something, right? And you think about that and you're like, well, part of that's true. The second of, yeah, you're saved for something. God has a plan, a purpose for you.
Yep.
But you are saved from something, right? And so this idea that Jesus is that which we throw ourselves on him and he breaks us. He takes the bad stuff, right? He reaffirms the good stuff, fortifies the good stuff, and he builds us back up. We become part of what he is building. He's the cornerstone, and then he uses all of us to build what he's doing, his kingdom. That is a fantastic thing for us to remember. Yep, you're gonna have to be broken. That's the fresh perspective. God has no interest in you staying the same. So what he's going to do is take you, right, and he's going to throw you upon the cornerstone, and then he's going to take you and he is going to then build his kingdom with you. That's fantastic. But then probably you have some input on that, and also there's a second part to that.
Yeah, I think it's so important that we look at that, because so many of us, I feel like today there are so many Christians who they sign up to become a Christian. They want to be a Christian. They want to follow Jesus, but they want to follow Jesus on their terms. They don't have any interest in being broken to pieces. In fact, that's probably a shock to a lot of people, what we're saying about being broken to pieces. We think God just wants us to be all put together, perfect, come to him perfectly. But no, he wants us to come to him broken. He's going to break us down so that he can build us up. And so when we go through difficulties in our lives and trials and tribulations and we go, where's God? Why is God allowing this to happen? Well, a lot of the time he's allowing bad things to happen in our lives to shape us, to mold us, so that he can get rid of the bad things in our lives and build us up, like you said. He's going to shore up and make better, fortify the good things in our lives, the good character qualities, the good spiritual qualities, and he's going to make us into a new creation. The only way we can get to a new creation is if we first lose that old creation, break apart, and allow him to put us back together. But like you said, that's the good part, and yes, it's going to look bad at first. Maybe we have to allow ourselves to be broken. We have to go through some difficult times in life, but it's way better than the flip side of that, which is anyone on whom it falls, meaning the cornerstone, will be crushed. And so if we don't allow God to break us, if we don't allow Jesus to break us to pieces and build us back together, the flip side is being completely crushed. And I don't think we want to be crushed and completely destroyed, because when the Bible uses words like crushed and destroyed, things like that, it's a symbol of punishment, of judgment, of being on the wrong side of the equation with God. And so we would way rather be broken to pieces by Jesus and built back up rather than be completely crushed.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you said it perfectly, right? That is the crushed stone is good for really nothing.
Yep.
Right? Again, they did do some mortar stuff back then, but most of the time when they built with stone, they cut pieces perfectly so that they fit together. You're not even going to use crushed stone in the cement because that's not what they did back then, right? And that's what God does. He breaks us into pieces so that we can fit perfectly where He wants us to be for what He's building. And we need to understand, we're not the whole building. We're simply a piece, right? If Jesus is, I'm going to say only the cornerstone, right? But I mean the most important part of He is the line, right? The corner where we're going to build everything off of. But then we're not the rest of the building, and too many of us think that we're the rest of the building. No, God is looking at you to be a part, a piece of what He's doing, but He has to chisel you so that you fit perfectly into His plan. The more you resist that, the longer it's going to take for you to fit into His plan, right? And the more chiseling He's going to have to do, and the more you risk eventually being crushed, right? That's what people don't understand. The more you fight the chiseling, the breaking into pieces, the more you're setting yourself up to simply be crushed. When you're crushed, there's no coming back from that, right? That maybe is a fresh perspective. We live in a world where we think that God gives us unlimited chances, right? I love the passage, you got to forgive somebody 70 times 7. We love to say that that's unlimited, but it's actually a real number, right? And so God does have, the Old Testament and the New Testament are full of moments where God says, enough. This day, your life will be required of you, right? When God was dealing with King Saul, there comes a time where He says, enough. I can no longer use you to build what I'm doing. I'm going to crush you. We need to talk about love. We need to talk about God giving us 490 forgiveness over the same exact thing on any given day, right? Again, if you have to use all 490, you're in trouble in one day, right? But we also need to present the opposite. We need to present the idea that no, God's grace and mercy are not unlimited eternally.
Yeah, I think that's so important because we do, and we've addressed this many times on this show, we have in our current modern Christian culture, we've developed this idea of just, let's just preach God's love, God's love, God's love, that's all that matters. And yes, it is super important, and we couldn't do anything else without that. But when we are trying to teach people how to live a Christian life and what is Jesus saying, what does He want us to do in life, we have to present the whole picture, which is this idea of, hey, if we choose not to allow Jesus to break us and mold us and make us into a new creation, then we're choosing the flip side of it, which is being crushed. And that is a final thing, like you said. That's not okay, He's going to crush us and then we'll get to choose later on to, I'll switch back to being broken to pieces. No, that's a final thing. That's when the time runs out, when we die and we are now going to face the consequences. But up until that point, we do get chance after chance to turn over to God. But like you said, there is going to come a time when the chances run out. And so we have to take advantage of the time we have now and choose to follow Christ. And we need to present the full picture, because this whole parable of these tenants who are killing and beating and mistreating all these servants who are sent, and then the owner's son, and doing all of this, there comes a time when his mercy and forgiveness runs out. He doesn't send another one after his son. He then is going to come and completely annihilate the people when they choose not to obey and listen to and honor his son. And that's a foreshadowing of what Jesus was sent to do. God sent prophets. He sent servants to the Israelites. They refused to listen to them. Then eventually he sends his son, and then they kill his son. And what does God do? Well, there's a punishment for that. It's not this just unlimited, I'm going to just send another messenger until you get it. We need to actually follow Christ and allow him to change us before it's too late.
Yeah, I think this whole thing ends with the bad guys, the Pharisees, the Sadducees, the teachers of the law, that, by the way, God loved and sent his son for, and they had interaction with him a ton. They realized he was talking about them, and instead of it breaking them to pieces, they got angry and they're looking for another way to arrest him, right? Again, that is so often our place. Right? When conviction comes, we respond negatively to it instead of it being used to break us so that God can then use us.
Yeah, I think that's so important to wrap it up with that. We need to be willing to submit ourselves to Jesus, allow him to challenge us, convict us, to change us, and not be like the teachers of the law, the chief priests, who instead of realizing what he was saying and then acting upon it in a positive way, they realized what he was saying and then they act upon it by hardening their hearts and doubling down on their sinfulness and their rejection of Christ. Hopefully that is not the case for you and I on a daily basis. Hopefully we are allowing Jesus to change us, to mold us, make us more like him, because that's what we ultimately should be doing. If we're Christians, we should be becoming more like our Savior, Jesus Christ.
Amen.
Well, we hope you've been challenged and convicted and encouraged by this, and that you'll join us next time for another episode of A Fresh Perspective here on Heavenward Thinking.